What's up, everyone? It's Brian from Exact Cybersecurity and IT. Welcome to another video. Today is July 17th, 2023. And today I'm going to take a little bit of a different tact on the videos. I'm going to talk to you about just cybersecurity in general, because I really have some concerns about what is going on out there, what governments and businesses are actually doing to protect themselves, and really try to help everybody understand how far behind we are as a country, as a government, and businesses constantly get hacked. June of 2023 and July is turning out to be no different. This has been the most prolific month for cyber criminals to hit businesses and governments, and it hasn't slowed down. And the end of last week, there were just a slew of stories that were coming out around cybersecurity, and I hope they hit your radar at least a little bit, but I'm going to highlight them here and start talking about what this stuff means, because it's going to impact you, and we're going to get into it. First thing is the national cybersecurity strategy that the government is trying to roll out. And the Biden and Harris administration late last week released their implementation plan around this strategy. And essentially, this is a very high level strategy that they're trying to get some kind of standards around cybersecurity and the reasons that we're dealing with all the problems today. There's 5 pillars of this. That's how they're kind of laying this out. And I'm just going to go through them quickly. And down below in the description, you can get a link to a report that my company has created around this implementation strategy. Explains it in layman's terms in more detail than what I'm going to go into on the video today. Pillar 1 is defend critical infrastructure. Obviously, that's been a challenge for this country for years now. I can remember a couple years ago when Biden went over to Russia and told Vladimir Putin, don't attack these critical infrastructure areas. I think there were 16 at the time. And basically, they're still today trying to figure out how to defend critical infrastructure because they can. What they're learning along the way are some of the things that we're going to talk about around this report. Pillar number 2 is disrupt and dismantle threat actors. Well, you've been trying that for a long time too, guys, and the government really isn't successful with that. And this is going to take a worldwide cooperation in order to actually achieve. And it's much, much easier said than done. And quite frankly, of all 5 pillars, I think pillar number 2 is kind of the hardest one to achieve for our government. Pillar number 3 is shape market forces to drive security and resilience. That is basically nice speak, where we're going to put laws in the books that are going to make your companies do the right thing around cybersecurity. And that's really the crux of the video today and why I wanted to create it, because I'm seeing across the board still today, and it's not something I don't talk about all the time on this channel, but businesses constantly try and play Russian roulette with their business, try to decide whether we need to do something or pay for something or invest in cybersecurity in the name of growth, in the name of other initiatives in the business. But across the board, business leaders, government officials, they're all making the decision to not do this stuff, guys. And it's just going to lead to you needing to pay more for things after they get hacked, potentially that company not being in business anymore to serve you, a bank or something along those lines. And then you also run the risk of your identity being stolen of no fault of your own. This is going to impact the average everyday person, the average everyday American in some way, shape, or form here in the future. Again, remember, cybersecurity, cyber criminals, they've only been around for a little while, and they're still dreaming up ways and figuring out ways to monetize the data that they're getting their hands on as a result of these cyber attacks. And it's going to come to fruition here over the next 5, 10, 15 years as these cyber criminals figure out how they can make money stealing this data and doing the things that they're doing. They're not doing this just to be annoying, guys. They're literally figuring out the business model on a day-to-day basis on how they can make more money and increase their profits and hit more business. They're really going to put laws on the books to make you businesses do the right thing. And we're seeing it across the board on what you're going to have to do in terms of that. And when you decide not to do it, there's going to be repercussions around fines and potentially criminal jail time if they find that the decisions that were made were egregious enough. We've seen cases where CEOs, where IT people have made decisions, and those decisions have led them to the slammer. Pillar number 4 is invest in a resilient future, offering grants and offering some kind of incentive for companies and governments that do the right thing around this stuff is essentially what they're suggesting here. And pillar number 5 is forge forge international partnerships to pursue shared goals. We recognize we can't do this on our own. We need ways to be able to go in and get these cyber criminals in countries where we really don't have jurisdiction, and pillars 1 through 4 really don't mean anything if we don't have the rest of the world on board, ready, willing, and able to help us when a company or a government in our country within our borders gets attacked by cyber criminals. Definitely check out the report that my company has created around this, link in the description below, to get more details around what our government wants to do, how they want to do it. But just talking about the plan in general, what I think, number one, one of the big things that stands out to me is there's clearly the people involved in creating this are really big software companies. They definitely had a hand in this. Let's just take Microsoft, for example. They're the biggest software company in the world. And they put out a lot of softwares, Windows operating system being one of them. A lot of businesses that get attacked, at some point they take a look at what Microsoft's doing and how they're releasing their product and what they're doing with their product, making the determination that their product put me at risk. It wasn't really anything that we did. It was the fact that their software had this flaw. There's language in this implementation plan around creating what's known as a safe harbor for these tech companies. I'm concerned for a lot of different reasons, but the main reason being that we see safe harbor in HIPAA. And there's safe harbor with HIPAA because if you do certain things, then you're basically told that you're not going to have a HIPAA violation on your hands to do all these things that are laid out in this HIPAA safe harbor. A similar idea is being floated here, where if software companies follow a certain framework, they follow a certain standard, and they're within that standard when they release their software, then they won't be held responsible should you, say, get ransomware because of their vulnerability in their software. It really would come down to the fact that maybe you're not doing something. You're not patching the system when it's released, things like that. While they're going to require these companies to do more around this, the concern being that the safe harbor standards are not that high, so it's really not that high of a bar for them to reach. And because they have reached it, they're now held harmless should your company get hacked because of a flaw in their software. So that's my concern when I see this language and I see this stuff being rolled out this way, because there is a lot of good stuff in there, but you see things like this that are in there with safe harbor for these bigger companies who really do need to put out better products that are more secure than what we're seeing today. That's something I firmly believe and have said on this channel a million times. But that's really what we're up against here when it comes to this, because our staff didn't write this. They had help from companies like Microsoft and Google and everyone else. They're trying to protect their interests as this stuff gets rolled out, which their interest is their company and their bottom line. So that's it. But also know, as a business owner, you need to start doing cybersecurity the right way, because the laws are going to catch up to you real fast here. State laws are already catching up quick. Federal government is going to jump on board and make sure that these companies, that you're doing things the right way, that you have a plan in place, practicing that plan, that you're working with cybersecurity professionals, you're getting that insight in your business. They're going to start with the sizable companies that know can afford it, and then it's going to trickle down from there. And just want to continue, guys, with some of these things that I'm seeing out here from last week that really just kind of caught my attention and blew my mind a little bit. A lot of these came out on Thursday or Friday of last week, and it was pretty wild. The first one here is this Kansas City IT security audit offers a fresh evidence of government administrators tone deaf to flaws. Legislators' auditors point to weak controls at state agencies and school districts. Kansas had a security audit basically saying that there's flaws on the system that exists and they're not being taken care of, which is leaving this state government vulnerable to attacks. And this isn't anything that we don't see all the time. This is usually how attacks go down. But here we are. Again, this is considered critical infrastructure. And this state is not doing what they need to do to protect themselves from being attacked by cyber criminals. And as a result, you have a report like this that comes out. I'm just pointing this out, guys, because a lot of businesses in a lot of states in this country, it's not just Kansas. A lot of businesses are falling behind. They're falling behind quick, what we call cybersecurity debt. That clock's moving very, very fast on these businesses. And when you look at the cybersecurity debt clock versus, say, the normal technology debt clock, the cybersecurity debt clock's running like 10 times faster. Cybersecurity is moving so quick, and these criminals are getting so good at what they do that if you don't get on top of this stuff quickly, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And I'm going to show you here in a second what I mean by that. This article really blew my mind when I saw it. New Soho router botnet AV Recon spreads to 70,000 devices across 20 countries. Now, guys, this is wild. This is one of those big concern type things that this doesn't seem like a big deal. It's a lot of geek speak, right? But at the end of the day, we've distributed our workforce to work from home now. There's companies that are trying to fight to get employees back into the office, but the reality of it is a lot of them aren't coming back. A lot of companies have basically said we're going to be hybrid, and a lot of companies said we're going fully remote, and that has distributed the workforce to the home. And we run into this all the time where employees are constantly connecting their work devices to home routers, vacation home places, causing them to be less secure, causing them to be exposed to the internet and criminal hackers, and completely unknowingly. So what have these hackers done? Well, they went and they've decided to build a whole computer automated botnet network, because that's what a botnet is if you don't know what it is. They have all these computers around the world that are now programmed and designed to basically look for SOHO routers that have vulnerabilities that they can then try to then attack. Now, number one, a SOHO router is a router that you buy at Best Buy, Target. They're designed to be built in the home. There's minimal security, if any at all, on them. And hackers love to prey on these things because most likely when you put them in your house, you're taking them out of the box and you're plugging it in and you're hoping it works. And you're not going through a process of securing it or hardening it, which requires A, to change the default password on the device so nobody else can log into it. And B, it also requires you to periodically update that device when the manufacturer makes updates to this device to probably secure it from vulnerabilities that exist on it. Vulnerabilities are the things that hackers love to exploit. A lot of times, if a vulnerability does exist on a device, they don't need your username and password to take over your network. The other thing you need to remember here is that SOHO routers, they know computers are sitting behind there. And what could be sitting behind that SOHO router is somebody's corporate laptop. They can start trying to hack into and steal information from. This is a big deal because this is now automated. They don't need a human being to do all this. This will just scan the internet, make dials to certain IP addresses, which is your phone number, basically on the internet, and they'll keep calling and they'll keep calling until they find something. And when they do, they're going to jump all over it and they're going to try to exploit it and try to get in. So companies, beware. If you don't have a policy in place to how your employees are allowed to connect from home, you should probably talk to a cybersecurity professional and figure out how to get that done in a more secure manner. This is something you've never thought about before. It could be a potential issue for your business. Reach out to a cybersecurity professional and talk to somebody, guys, because you're going to get hacked if you continue to let employees connect with your work devices however they want. There are things that you can buy or you can put in place to make sure that that corporate device, even though it's connected to somebody's home network, is protected from things that I'm pointing out and showing you today. All feasible, all protectable, but you do have to invest in something and you do have to do something about it. So businesses, heed my warning and make sure that you're doing this stuff. So moving right along, guys, just to kind of touch base with some other articles that caught my attention over the last week is Hayward City out in California, another municipal government hit with ransomware. They've declared a state of emergency to try to get federal help around their ransomware attack. We also have the town of Cornelius in North Carolina was also hit with a cyber attack, another municipal government that, as I described as I was talking about the Kansas IT audit, another local government hit with ransomware and brought down to their knees as a result of cyber criminals. And then we have Charles Schwab, who announced that TD Ameritrade had data breach last week, which I know a lot of TD Ameritrade customers, and says tens of thousands of clients could be affected in the attack. And this was a result of the MOVEit breach. So go check out my video on what's going on with the MOVEit. I also talked about it on my podcast, Security Squawk, which we also have a YouTube channel for, so check that out, Security Squawk. There's a lot going on with cybersecurity. This was just kind of like what caught my eye in the last 3 or 4 days, and I wanted to update you guys on this stuff. So let me know what you're seeing out there. Hit me up in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys. Open this channel up to more of a dialogue and conversation about cybersecurity and what you guys are seeing, maybe where you work. This stuff's really important. We're out here to try to help protect businesses. We're defenders of business. Check out our report down below around the implementation plan for our nation's cybersecurity strategy. I think you will find that helpful and insightful. And remember, stay safe out there, and I'll catch you in the next video.